Teachers at Reddit, what's the weirdest thing a student answered to tell me a fun fact about yourself? I had a student tell me that sometimes his dad got drunk and asked his mom for things. As I was starting to tell him he didn't need to elaborate any further, he continued with like soup and he yells it like Osasu up. It took every bit of restraint to not laugh. It's been years and years since that happened, but I still laugh when I think about it. Not a teacher, but this happened when I was 17 at school camp during a bonding exercise. Teacher: tell us 2 truths and 1 lie about yourself and we have to guess the lie. Weird kid: I play PlayStation. I like Doritos and I am an alcoholic. The teacher: the lie is you are an alcoholic. Weird kid: got you. I play Xbox. My god, the look on the teacher's face. In my public speaking class at a community college, we had to get up and do a speech about our experience that really changed our lives or an important memory and how it made us who we are. On the first day, a guy who was a veteran volunteered to go first. He proceeded to talk about the day he was captured and sexually assaulted by enemy soldier and how he now goes around and helps other soldiers with the Wounded Warrior Project. It was difficult for anybody to follow that. One of the nicest guys I've ever met. I teach middle school. This one still takes the cake. That is, mom and dad have the same parents. I asked him to clarify because I didn't understand what he was saying and he said I only have one set of grandparents. They had the same parents. I quickly moved to the next student so no one else would realize that this kid just told the class that his parents were siblings. I talked to him about it the next day in private and he said that he got it mixed up. His parents don't have the exact same parents. They shared a dad. I felt so much better when the mom called me to let me know her elderly stepfather married her husband's elderly mother. Still weird, but much better. My arm is FCKED all in the deepest southern drawl and proceeded to wildly swing his FKed up arm around. He was 12. Had Erb's palsy and also got detention that day. Opposite side of the classroom. But on day 1 of class, our professor spent most of the time talking about himself, his mental health, and how he was friendly with students. While he didn't say anything specifically creepy, the more he talked, the more put off I was. It just seemed deeper than a get to know you as the first time I'm meeting you speech should have gone. It was an intro to research class and I already had research experience, so I got permission to waive it and I dropped the class. Later learned he killed his previous TA girlfriend before killing himself. Not a teacher, but I just did a first aid course. During introductions, say your name and 1 fact about yourself. Dude says proudly he once had over 300k of unpaid parking tickets. A student. Not a teacher. But once we were going around a circle during percussion camp in the front ensemble and my teacher goes, "Hello everyone. My name is," and I have shit my pants as an adult. Definitely one of the weirder ones I've heard. I said my dad steals cars. It was something my parents always told us growing up as a joke. Student told me that there is a chapter dedicated to him in a dental surgery textbook because of a very rare disorder that he had as a child. During French class, a guy in my class said that he liked stabbing children. He meant that he fences but didn't know the exact translation for that. During an introductory activity for my new class, a boy, age 9, got up and said my dog has to wear a cone on its head because dad had his bollocks cut off. I was an ESL teacher in Indonesia and a student once told me every morning she cleaned the shit on her bed. I asked her to clarify. Worried she had a serious digestive issue. She answered, "I brush my teeth, wash face and clean bedsheet." Kid in my kindergarten class said my pee-pee fell off at Disneyland. I didn't ask any follow-up questions. I found my dad who hung himself. A 5th grader. Not a teacher. But a few years ago on the first day of school, this kid in one of my classes casually answered, "I have a restraining order on my dad." Awesome, dad clogged the toilet this morning and that's why I'm feeling frustrated -5-year-old child. I will say the question was how are you doing this morning? But I could barely keep from laughing out loud. Not a teacher. But I was a helper in a middle school classroom. A young girl, who seemed uninterested, said, with no hesitation, that she can chug an entire bottle of beer. She got expelled later that year for keeping drugs in her locker. I am not a teacher, but this guy in my class named Shane has this medical condition that causes him to grow tons of hair at an early age. Full beard in middle school. He would say I'm Shane and I'm very hairy. A student once told my wife that her daddy had a special device that he had to blow into to start his truck. We did one of those 2 truths 1 lie bits. Girl stands up and says, I've never been out of the country. I'm a twin. I love playing sports. I knew this girl beforehand and knew she didn't have a twin. So picked that one. Nope. She had a conjoined twin that died in utero and had to be surgically removed and she's now missing the last vertebrae on her spine. Showed us the scar and everything. Apparently the lie was the first one as she'd been to Mexico. Not me but my brother. He told the teacher last night my family ate beaver for dinner. I was much older and had left home by then. The class laughed. The teacher accused him of lying. The principal was brought into this and my mother had to go in for a meeting. She chewed them up one side and down the other because we had a cousin who was a trapper and he had sent a batch of beaver thighs for the family to enjoy. Although my brother was telling the truth. He told me later that he did say that for the effect, disrupting the class. Why in the world would a teacher make a big deal out of that? Waste of time and energy for everyone. I teach ESL and every lesson we start the class by sharing something good that happened to us over the last week or so. Needless to say, kids share the most random things ever. I have many weird stories because of that. We enforce a rule that they need to share good things so they don't start one-upping each other over whose grandma had the worst death lol. One day, a student said, I was riding my bike over the weekend when I fell. I could see where it was going but didn't have enough time to enforce the rule when he just spat out. I fell over a wired fence and cut my neck. It just kept gushing blood. A lot of blood. Full stop. I reminded him that we were only sharing good news when he said, it's good because I'm still alive. Full stop. I had a good laugh and agreed but the damage was done. Every kid after him wanted to share about the most horrific injury they had or witnessed. That he has been to juvie multiple times and is currently on probation. Then he pulled up his pants enough that everyone could see his ankle monitor. That was something. Then he pulled up his pants. Not actually the worst direction he could have pulled his pants. Though. My friend is really quiet. He doesn't really talk unless talked to. He's really cool though and has some things he enjoys doing. Literally second year I knew him, the teacher asked this and he said he's a professional bowler with a 300 best. And I was like, why haven't you told Emmy this? That's amazing. I guess it just never came up. Haha. Knew him for a whole year and never knew that. Had students, age 11, sharing strategies for dealing with difficult emotions. One at a time in a big circle. One girl talked about digging her nails into her face whenever she was feeling stressed or anxious. And I had to explain to the class why self-harm was not a good coping strategy. When I was in my first year at university, my law and society professor made each student get up, say his her name and tell why they picked law school. Well, a guy got up, said his name and the professor interrupted him by asking Anim, are you related to X? The guy, yes professor. He is my grandfather. Then the professor got excited and started talking about what great of a guy X is and that he haven't heard of him in years. Then the professor asked how he was. Anan replied he is dead, so the whole class was trying to hold the laughter. Someone in a class once told everyone about how his grandparents were arrested for keep a bunch of adopted children in cages. He said that he used to play with the kids when he was young. But he was too young to understand that the conditions they were in weren't normal. They kept kids in cages and locked in rooms for years before they were discovered and arrested. Yup. Fun fact. Edit. I'm not a teacher. This person who told the story was in a class with me as a young adult. A guy in my class introduced himself by telling us how he decided he wanted to study philosophy because one day he was really high peeing in the street and he saw a couple of people working and he wondered what they were doing. So he realized his passion was wondering. He dropped out like 2 months later. I've had my hand up a sheep's bum shocked me slightly. Child of a farming family. Helping with lambing season. In my psychology class, we were talking about the early signs of serial killers and the quietest girl who never spoke told the story of when she lived in Chicago. She had a friend around 5th grade who would always stomp on baby birds and once put his hamster in the microwave. Well, his parents were having difficulty keeping up with his antics, so they sent him to his grandmother's, who he promptly stabbed to death when she woke him up for school. So that was interesting. I was in one of the first small required classes for my teaching degree and everyone in the class was studying to teach. It was day 2 or 3 and we were doing a get to know you activity where we share something about ourselves. I don't remember the exact question, but it had something to do with what you regret take back. A guy came in late, when almost everyone has answers the question, and the professor asked him the questions and he thought for a moment and said, "I regret letting my friend talking me into dropping acid." The class was silent for a good 20 seconds until the professor said, "Maybe next time we only share things that are legal." I hadn't seen him in any other teacher classes since. Still laugh about it to this day. In the context of having students introduce themselves one by one to a new boy in a small high school class, a girl said her parents got her a nose job and a boob job. I have 2 thumbs on this hand. I am raising cockroaches in my closets to sell to the reptile shop. Edit to say, thanks for the silver. I want to clarify that these quotes come from different kids. But it's definitely more entertaining to imagine than being the same. Also, I learned so much about cockroach raising from the comments. I wish I had asked more follow-up questions at the time. Not a teacher but the daughter of one. My dad had a student tell him during the fun fact question in detail about how his goldfishes died that morning and how he experimented on their corpses. He had pictures on his phone of the skin off and the intact skeleton next to it. Semicolon. He is a successful taxidermist now, so silver linings I guess. I know a lot about medieval torture equipment. My first year. As an earnest and ideological teacher in a very rough and underserved area, I got all the students in a circle on the first day to talk about what we'd done that summer. I pointed to a student who'd been engaged me before class and said, "What did you do this summer that could inspire us?" His answer, "I did the last 2 months of a sentence for stealing a car." I hadn't expected that. So I pointed to another student and said, "Okay. That's great. Let's talk about what you did this summer." That student said, "Yes. I had such a good summer. I went to camp and..." Laughing, Lem stopped lying. "I did the last 2 months of a sentence with that guy cause I stole that car him." It wasn't weird, but actually cute and funny. I was teaching 5th grade and this kid, white as paper, goes, "My name is, but you can call me Lebron." He had an obsession with LeBron James and I did in fact call him Lebron whenever I wanted to get his attention. Great kid. I'm a teacher from the UK. Form tutor to a year 7 class, 11-year-olds. To get to know each other on the first day I had them take it in turns to say their name, which primary school they've come from and an interesting fact, like favorite food or color. We get to the last kid in the class. His fact is that he has 6 fingers on one hand. Coolest kid ever. Lol, that's like my brother. He was born with 6 fingers on each hand, but he had them removed as a baby. When he found out around age 10, he got so mad because he said he could have been really cool and really fast at typing. Taught elementary school the past few years. One kid told me he was a dragon when he was born but changed into a human as he got older. He was absolutely convinced and couldn't be persuaded. Okay, so I had psychology back in the spring semester before COVID hit, and I sat next to a girl who I was good friends with from high school. Professor asks her for a fun fact and she said, "I like to watch people get cut open." She obviously said it for effect, but she cleared it up by saying she liked watching videos of people getting plastic surgery because it's satisfying to watch. The explanation is just as bad. That when he wiped in the bathroom this morning, there was blood on the toilet paper. OMG, not a teacher, but the student. Introducing ourselves around our grade 10 social studies class. And my intro goes, "Hi, I'm Catbum4. I'm blah 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 and I really like trees. Like I swear I have a tree fetish." The teacher gives me a WTF look and goes okay, and quickly moves on. I confused fetish with the word obsession. Still weird. But holy smokes, I did not mean to say I'm sorely attracted to trees. I was teaching a 10th grade honors English class once and this pleasant young woman busted out the C word. "See you next Tuesday." I hadn't had any trouble with her whatsoever, so I was a bit shocked. The whole class went dead silent. I told her she couldn't use that word in class and she was confused as to which word I was referring to. Finally, I said the C word. She repeated it and then admitted she didn't know there was anything wrong with it because her parents use it at home all the time. The rest of the class let her know it was bizarre that she was using it. Edit. She was not Australian. Not a teacher. But on the first day of 9th grade we had to form a circle and say one thing about ourselves that we thought was unique. When it was this dude's turn, let's call him Mike. Mike stands up and says in a really serious tone goes, "My mom and dad grow weed." Semicolon. I tried to make conversation with a 6th grade boy who didn't have any friends in my class. I asked him what music he listens to and he said mukbang soundscapes. If you don't know, mukbang is when people eat a ridiculous amount of food in one setting. Not a teacher. But a guy in a handful of my high school classes used to always say he met Ron Jeremy if the class was doing 2 truths and a lie. He wasn't lying. And would always show the class the picture they took together. I don't ask for a fun fact. But on the first day I always ask, "What's your most recent obsession?" Low stakes. Building affinity networks. Etc. Etc. In my first semester, a student said air. As in oxygen. I'm a student but a kid in my class said that he loves chicken nuggets, then sat down and didn't say anything to anyone else for a month. I have 17 piercings. One guy. I love rape. Sometimes I rape. Sometimes me and my friends like to get together and listen to rape. Some of my favorite rappers include Tupac, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Biggie. My favorite RP song is English Was Not His First Language. He had us in the first half. I'm a trainer at a bank. And I've learned some really interesting things about my colleagues doing icebreakers. One guy used to be in a pretty successful metal band. Another can solve a Rubik's Cube in under 2 minutes. Yes. I made him prove it. One woman was a professional pianist for a while. And another can read tarot cards. I'm seriously thinking of putting on an employee talent show. Maybe not weird. But one I will always remember, the boy who wrote "I like chewing bubble gum and drinking out of a water bottle." I also had another boy who said "I always say I'm tired even when I'm not." Along the same avenue, after an winter half term, the teacher asked, "How was your break?" My class was silent for some glorious seconds when it was my turn and I said, "Well, my granddad died and my dad got married, yes, in that order." My teacher asked my mum if it was true at parents' evening a few days later. Sorry, Emma. First grade student told me that she likes spending time with her dad's special friend more than her mom because the special friend bought her things in exchange for not telling mom about her. Fast forward 2 months to parent-teacher conferences and I'm sitting at the table knowing dad is cheating on mom and mom has no clue. And dad has no clue that I knew. I work with preschoolers, 3-5 age group. One day we had the kids go around and tell us one thing that made them special. Most were pretty normal. I'm really good at drawing. I have 2 big sisters. etc. And then I get to this one little Jalossa, super cute and sweet. Looks me dead in the eyes and goes, I have been around forever. I have seen the whole world and I know everything. Dead serious. Super creepy. When I pressed her, she couldn't really find the words to explain, but kept talking about how she came from the sand and was frustrated that she couldn't say it better. I didn't used to believe in past lives, but now I'm not so sure. Bro, you ran into a F-King elder god.